Jericho was the guest GM for the night. By the fourth segment he was in, I was completely sick of seeing him. He was out there and Jericho's great, I like Jericho, but he was out there. They did the obligatory opening 30-minute segment, which apparently is the new Raw formula. We've got to kill 3 hours, so let's just kill the first 30 minutes by doing nothing but talking. So Jericho was out there for the whole thing, and then he was in a backstage segment with Fandango, and then he came back out again for a highlight reel, and then he came back out again for a match that never happened. He was all over the place to the point that I was just tired of seeing him. Look at how they use Jericho here, and look at how they use Brock Lesnar, and you see why Brock still means something, and Jericho doesn't when he shows up. And it's not Jericho's fault. It's the booking of Jericho on the show. He just went along with it, and I just don't think it did him any favors. The whole thing was to set up a Paul Heyman-Chris Jericho match. Because Heyman came out, and Seth Rollins came out, and again, Rollins was put in a cage match main event with Cena. Comments were made, and unfortunately, poor Paul Heyman was on the receiving end of being put in a match on this show with Chris Jericho that was going to have one of 3 stipulations. And the stipulations were, that the fans could vote on, by the way. Stipulations were Extreme Rules, No Holds Barred, or Street Fight. As if they couldn't make it any clearer what they wanted you to pick. Not that the match actually happened anyway, the match never did take place, but if you needed any further proof that WWE thinks its audience is stupid, there it is. Heyman came out for the match, he tried to talk his way out of it, it was a swerve, he brought out Brock Lesnar, and I don't care what you think of Brock Lesnar, what you think of his title reign so far. When Brock Lesnar's music hit, when that guitar riff hits and he comes out, there is a vibe that nobody else on the roster can bring to the table, and if he leaves this company at the end of his contract, if he does go to UFC or Bellator or wherever the hell he ends up, it's going to be a big loss for WWE, because even those handful of times he's on television, it feels like, oh shit, something bad is about to happen. That is why Brock Lesnar is such a valuable thing. He's real. He's real. You know what I mean? When I talked about the New Day a few minutes ago, what do we know about those guys? What do we know about Kofi? What do we really know about Big E? We know that Brock Lesnar is a badass SOB, and when he comes out, you better be somewhere else. We know that Brock Lesnar went to the UFC and became champion. He's a legit fighter. We know a lot of things about Brock Lesnar. That's why he's a scary dude. He's real. He's the only real guy on that whole roster. And they lose him, like I said, maybe it's not worth the money they're paying him, but that's going to be a big loss. But he comes out, he circles the ring like a shark circling its prey. He gets in there. He looked a lot smaller, too. I'm sure by the time the Rumble rolls around, he'll be gigantic, but he actually looks smaller on the show. And Jericho threw some forearms that Brock basically no-sold, and I think Brock shoved him back into the ropes. Jericho comes off, he goes for the code breaker, and Brock Lesnar did what any rational person would do in a real fight, which is just not go down for the move. So Jericho falls down, he looks up at Brock like, uh-oh, like he had this look of sheer terror on his face that was so perfect. It was the best thing I've seen Jericho do in ages. And Brock picks him up on his shoulders, F5, leaves him laying. This is exactly what it needed to be, because Jericho was in for a one-time appearance. Brock is the champion. I had no problem with him doing this at all. I thought this was probably, if not the best, one of the best parts of the entire show. So we never actually got a match here, which begs the question, why even bother doing that stupid deal where every stipulation is the same? The whole thing is just stupid.